1970, Dr. Larry Olson.
1980, Glenn Lee.
1981, Mary Gallant and Ed Hendler.
1982, Dean Mitchell.
1983, Gene Spalding.
1984, Greg Adams.
1985, Bob Young.
1986, Ernie Boston.
1987, Coke Roth.
1988, Lane Bray.
1989, Dr. William Wiley.
1990, Kelso Gillenwater.
1991, Bud Dazey.
1992, Neil, Billy Jane, and Bill Lamson.
1993, Dr. Al Corrado.
1994, George Grant.
1995, John Goldsbury.
1996, Jack Briggs.
1997, George Jones.
1998, Dean Strawn.
1999, Ray Robinson.
2000, John Nolan.
2001, Fran Frechette.
2002, Red Rutherford.
2003, Sandy Matheson.
2004, Dr. Louis Zirkle and Dr. Sara Zirkle.
2005, Calvin Dudney.
2006, Frank Armijo.
2007, George Garlick.
2008, Mike Schwenk.
2009, Ken Hollenberg.
2010, John Umbarger.
2011, Skip Novakovich.
2012, Ron Huey.
2013, Alan Brecky.
2014, Craig Erkes.
2015, Dr. John and Priscilla Cadwell.
Last one, Barb Johnson, 2016.
But wait, there's one more.
Oh, Stephen Shirley Simmons, 2017. Can this be our last remodel?
Oh no, I have visions of a new office, a new kitchen, maybe a WSU wall with decor.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year.
And please welcome our Masters of Ceremony, Bill Glenn and BJ Meadows.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's our privilege to welcome you to the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year event. And it's our pleasure to guide you through the events of this evening. We believe it's going to be a very memorable occasion for all of the Tri-Cities, and in particular, the recipient or the recipients of the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year award tonight.
Before we get too far into the program, we'd like to extend thanks to Luke Liebert. He has been in the background music that you have been listening to this evening. Luke is an exceptional young man. He is 12 years old and he's a sixth grader. His perfect pitch has encouraged his musical skills. He is honing his piano through lessons with Steve Haberman.
This year, the Tri-Citian of the Year event celebrates the 47th year of honoring individuals who exemplify the highest standards of community service, leadership, voluntary contribution of service acts which positively impact our community's development, its economic growth, and the overall well-being of mankind in general. All recipients demonstrate a commitment to improving and enhancing the overall quality of life here in the Tri-Cities, and they do so without personal monetary gain.
This event is proudly brought to you through the collaborative efforts of our local Rotary and Kiwanis service clubs. At this time, we would like to take a moment to graciously thank and recognize our 2018 sponsors. Rotary's dedication to service above self and building community through service is evident this past year as you have emphasized service to people of all ages and socioeconomic status through initiatives intended to improve the quality of life for mankind around the world. You have individually and collectively sought equality, peace, and international goodwill while providing humanitarian service, encouraging high ethical standards in all vocations, and building goodwill and peace in the world with the development of effective leadership skills.
Kiwanis is fully dedicated to serving the children of the world through its many programs inside and outside of our schools throughout the community. The efforts of 300 plus Kiwanians here in the Tri-Cities is noticed as they provide hands-on service and monetary support for a multitude of worthy causes. Kiwanians are truly a dedicated group of volunteers working to improve the world one child and one community at a time. And for those of you who are not either in Rotary or Kiwanis, we would still like to recognize that we know that you do service throughout our community also. And if you would like to join Rotary or Kiwanis, see VJ or I right after. We have applications.
Let's applaud you and recognize your contributions.
Now we'd like to move forward with our agenda tonight and call upon Jan Griffin of the Richland Rotary to offer our invocation, and also to ask Miss Tri-City's Hannah Mowry to present our national anthem. And I must apologize on behalf of the committee because we didn't get Hannah's name nor the name of Noel Anderson in today's program, but they're here and they're great to be with us, and so we welcome them. And after the anthem, would you please remain standing for a moment of silence to help us celebrate the Tri-Citians of the Year who are with us only in spirit tonight. Hannah and Jan?
I'm Jan, I'm the one without the tiara. It's how you can tell us apart. Gracious God, whom we know by many names, we give thanks for the spirit of community service that fills this room tonight, and especially for the outstanding person or persons we will honor as Tri-Citian of the Year. We give thanks for all men and women who serve others more than themselves, who give special care and protection to children, who expand individual opportunity, strengthen community relationships, nurture cooperation and collaboration, guard liberty and promote peace. We give thanks for the opportunity tonight to hear from Secretary of Defense James Mattis, a wise and faithful servant of our nation, and a Tri-Citian we are honored to claim as our own. And last, we give thanks for the simple gifts we receive tonight: abundant food, the freedom to gather together, homes that will still be there when we return. May we never take any of this for granted. May we continue to strive to make these gifts available to all. Amen.
You may be seated. I would like to introduce Diane Howard, Chair of the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year Steering Committee, to honor the past Tri-Citians of the Year with a special toast. Please fill your glass and join us as we commemorate the celebration.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you all for being here on this special event. I would like to start by thanking Richland Rotary for the honor of serving as this year's president of our club, as this has given me the opportunity to serve as the steering committee chair for 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year. That is really this committee that has brought this event to life over the last year. And at this time, I would like to ask the event steering committee to please stand and be recognized. Thank you for all your continued and extra efforts to make this year's event and evening a success. So why do we take on such an effort? Why does this matter? Because we have some honored guests this evening. They are leaders. They have made our community better. Although some have left us, their legacy lives on. They make us proud to be Tri-Citians. If our Tri-Citian alumni could please rise, all of you alumni. You can recognize them with the flowers. Thank you for your example, your leadership, and your service above self. Thank you.
Our sponsors make this event possible. Our title sponsor this year is RBC Wealth Management. And here from RBC is Daryl Trombley.
Where's Daryl? Oh, there he is.
Good evening, everyone. What a delightful night. I have to tell you that RBC is honored to be a part of such a wonderful event here. RBC has the reputation as the type of an organization that truly does believe that giving back to the communities in which they serve, of their employees, of their clients, it's just the right thing to do. And when you look at, as I was reading some of the materials here on really what the Kiwanis and the Rotary clubs represent, they talk about loving the service above self and community through service dedications. That's just a tremendous thing. So, as I said, it aligns perfectly with what RBC does. We're fortunate to have a former Kennewick Mayor, Brad Fisher, who leads the RBC Wealth Management Office here in the Tri-Cities area. And Brad knows the definition of community involvement, community service. In fact, he has organized his team of employees and friends to be involved in over 50 organizations here in this area. So anyway, congratulations on all the great community work that you're doing for the Rotary and the Kiwanis and then the many other organizations. It's now my privilege to introduce a very special person. One of my colleagues, Colonel Andy Wade. He is a financial advisor with us in the Tri-Cities area. He's one of the highest recommended, recognized advisors within all of RBC in the United States. He being I think he said 22 or 23 years in the military, in the Army himself, was recently a year ago raised to the rank of Colonel in the United States Army. It is my pleasure to introduce Colonel Andy Wade. Okay.
Thanks, Daryl. He doesn't write my evaluation report, though, sir. So, as we're sitting here at dinner, I was talking to the secretary. He leaned over to me and told me, "Are you introducing me?" I said, "Yes, sir, I am." He said, "Well, make it very quick." And I said, "Well, sir, I'm not sure if that's going to work tonight. But, sir, I want you to know, generally, when a general officer gives me an order, I actually do follow it. just probably not tonight. I'm not going to go through the Secretary's bio. Please go to the OSD website. It's a phenomenal bio. It's a fun read. There's a lot of other information on there. But I do want to talk a little bit about the organization just so you understand how big the organization that he leads. And these are facts right off the website. I think some of them are maybe a little bit dated, but they're good comparison numbers. The Department of Defense has a budget of $419 billion. In comparison, Walmart's budget is $227 billion. DoD employs over 3 million employees. Walmart employs 1.3 million employees. We currently have over 450,000 service members and civilians overseas, whether they be afloat or ashore. If you combine the entire footprint of the DoD, Department of Defense, it would equate to more than 30 million acres. So who's in charge of that? That's the Secretary of Defense. Big job, big deal. That's not how I got to know the Secretary of Defense. And I'm going to tell you a short story. I will keep it short, sir, I promise. March of 2016, so he was not being looked at as the Secretary of Defense. It was just General Mattis at the time. I say that because my boys now know that he's in charge of all the generals. Brad Fisher, my branch director, came up to me and asked me if my boys would like to meet General Mattis. My boys were 7 at the time. I'm always going to put my boys in front of leaders that I think they would love to emulate. Proud to have them be introduced to a person like this. So we sit down in the office, 5 of us, and the general starts engaging my boys. What's your favorite school or favorite class in school? What's your favorite sport? What do you like? What do you dislike? And of course, my boys, being 7, sitting in front of a 4-star general, they've already been briefed that no Marine jokes, because I'm an Army guy. So I made sure they didn't say anything about the Marines. But as we sit there, he's engaging my boys as if they were his kids. Just a normal conversation. We then turn to me, and he's asking me about my career and what I do and what I plan to do. And I think I made a comment, something like, it's probably my mouth that gets me kicked out of the Army. He said, well, it worked out for me, so. But I came to this meeting personally to hear war stories from this war hero. And he had turned the focus away from him to everyone else in the room. So the final part of the story, as we're sitting there having a conversation, we start talking about where we were in Iraq. And he turns to my boys, looks them in the eye, and said, your dad saved me in Iraq. Now, I can promise you it was not me. I did not do it. I was probably a captain at the time. It was the Army. The Army came to the Marine rescue. That's what happens when you fight jointly. It's just the way battle works. But I believe the general's mission at that point was to ensure I walked out of that room with my 2 boys, 7-year-old boys, impressionable little boys. I was the hero. Versus the Marine general that sat right in front of us. So this is the kind of guy our guest speaker is, the kind of gentleman, selfless service, honorable, humble. Many of you have stories, I'm sure, that you could tell all day long. So with that, it's my honor, my distinct pleasure to introduce the 26th Secretary of Defense, General Mattis.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks very much, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you, Andy. Thanks very much, Andy, for the nice introduction. You got good lads there. And I would just say from Billings to Baghdad, thanks for your service, and Kim for putting up with all the times he's been away. Representative Newhouse, Senator Brown, where's Doc Hastings? He's here somewhere. I owe him too. Hey, Doc. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be here. Some things in my life are work and some things are pleasure. Believe me, tonight's a pleasure to be in the company of a crowd that supports not only our local communities, but even the betterment of the global community. And I'm just proud as all get out to be here with you tonight. And I tell you that being here tonight confronts me with conflicting emotions. I'm so happy I could cry right now. I would just tell you that we were reminded in that great prayer, we should never take our great good fortune for granted. There should be an attitude of gratitude every day. We live in this beautiful experiment we call America. For me, I was Eastern Washington born and bred, born in Pullman, lived my whole life in Richland, went off to college in Ellensburg. I was raised in our towns. I was raised by the greatest generation, as some of the rest of us were. Where's Steve Potter? Where are you here, Steve? We were Boy Scouts together long ago. His father, Marine, was wounded on board a battleship when a kamikaze hit it. And all of our fathers were like that. Our mothers were like that. They'd been around the world. They'd been working in factories. They were the survivors of the greatest depression, the greatest depression our country ever had. They had survived a bloody, awful war. And they raised us, and we appreciated the opportunity like they did, because they explained it to us, to return home and basically get on with their lives. And as we come together here tonight, we recognize what Rotary and Kiwanis do. It's really in the finest tradition of the greatest generation and how they looked at this great big experiment that you and I call America. Because it's noble work, it's hard work to build this country, and we're building it every year. The job is never finished, and we have to pull together to do it. And you have to go a long way to find a nation that's more willing to look itself in the mirror, see what's not right, and go to work, roll up their sleeves to fix it. And Rotary and Kiwanis are two organizations that actually give us the opportunity to do so. I'd also tell you that escaping the hot political rhetoric of Washington, D.C., is it's like it returns 7 years for every year you're away, or probably every day you're away, as I trade what I would call Representative Newhouse, basically trading one Washington for a better Washington. But tonight we pause, and it's appropriate that we pause to salute the importance of community service as we recognize the winner of the Tri-Citian of the Year award, and whoever that may be. But I tell you that with tongue-in-cheek, I know who it is. And I would just tell you that I know I stand between you and finding out who it is, so I'm not going to stay here too long. I would tell you that, as always, it seems to be the people who don't want recognition, the ones who commit, who just roll up their sleeves and go to work, no desire for acclaim, and then they're the ones who humility allows them to give so much to the community. So this evening here in the Columbia Basin, it is very appropriate to pause and respect them for what they do, because what it does, it sets a tone for a community. And we should remember there have been vibrant communities all around the world, and some of them are no longer vibrant, and that's because they didn't keep up with traditions and the legacy. And more about that in a moment. But I think we have to look at Rotary and Kiwanis clubs because they remind us how Americans look out for one another, and they work together to make our communities better. Look at Rotary with its core belief in a shared responsibility to solve our world's most persistent issues. And it inspires all of us who look at that and realize they get together, they leave after a hard day at work, they go off to do something else for the community, from fighting disease to supporting education, have an excellent reputation, and it's underpinned by the impressive results that they've actually achieved. I think it's interesting too, it's founded as an avenue for those with diverse backgrounds to exchange ideas, to form meaningful friendships. Very interesting word in America today, where we seem to have lost some of our fundamental friendliness toward one another. and also to give back to their communities with 1.2 million strong army of global citizens. Then you look at Kiwanis, equally inspiring mission. Their numbers work to make a lasting difference in the lives of children. And for all you young people here, the number one reason so much is done, from education to the military at far-flung outposts, it's to make sure you have the same opportunities that many of us enjoyed as we were growing up. I think that the goal that all children should wake up in communities that believe in them, that nurture them, and provide the support they need to thrive reminds us again that goodness can be done in the world when people unite together. And through your service, you make clear your choice about what kind of world we want for our children. We all know what America stands for. We have to be equally clear what we will absolutely not tolerate in the world, and we're willing to put ourselves on the line for. And it brings to mind an old anonymous saying that if you plan for a decade, plant trees. If you plan for a century, teach the children. So I just say thank you to all of you for helping to ensure the next generation has ever more opportunity to learn and to follow their curiosity. To all of you, thank you. I appreciate the inclusiveness of your clubs, welcoming any who wish to join and offering a helping hand to people everywhere. I also want to note that we have a legacy here in Tri-Cities, if we recognize it and accept the responsibility to pass it on, to tell the story and pass it on. Because this river outside our building here down the hill, this river is a very important river in America's history. Because another past time, on the banks of the Columbia River was the first time when a black man, a white man, a woman, and a Native American all voted as equals. First time in our republic's history, done at the mouth of the Columbia, when they all voted whether or not to cross that very dangerous water to find their winter-over spot. And I think that long-range Army reconnaissance mission that you and I know as the Lewis and Clark expedition is one we should all be proud of, and remember what Lincoln said, to follow your better angels. That's what they did that day. That's our responsibility. And that expedition, those 30-odd people camped right down there on Bateman's Island on their way home again as they headed back with all the results of what they'd found to report back to President Jefferson, their commander-in-chief. I'm very glad to see this value of equality lives on in our community through the work of your clubs. It's always reminding us of the importance of dealing with all people the same, because every person can represent the best of America's fundamental unity if we choose. And Rotary and Kiwanis are tremendous organizations to carry us forward. And I must say, Rotary, I usually don't get asked back to speak publicly, and you've actually invited me back again. Most time when I speak in public, they don't invite me back. I don't know why. But one thing that everyone here tonight has in common, and it's 3 words, you know how to put others first, to put service above self, to put others' well-being above your own. These are simple but worthwhile ideals. And to do so cuts your own troubles in half, and it amplifies the good, a truism not forgotten in this crowd. So whether you choose to serve at the local school board, food bank, city council, or in the Peace Corps, whether you join your local police or fire department, or you join the Marine Corps, the U.S. military, no matter the avenue you choose, it requires character to choose, and we are masters of our own character, choosing what we stand for in this life. It's often in the service to others that we are able to have the biggest and most positive impact, permitting us to learn about ourselves and to test ourselves as we see each other through the rough patches in life. I internalize these values of engagement with others and commitment to service from my own family, from this community, and from my time in the Marine Corps. Growing up, my parents traveled around the world, my father in the Merchant Marine, my mother serving overseas in South Africa during World War II in Army intelligence. They introduced me and my brothers to a world of great ideas, not a place to be fearful of, but a place to explore, a place to learn from others around me who held different perspectives. And this town, these towns on the Columbia, Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, the other towns around, they have instilled in me the value of community service, of service to others at a very young age, as they had us planting trees along the Columbia or carving paths for people to go biking and hiking on. Over my 4 decades in the Marines, I learned about the service culture as well as the warrior ethos, but most of all, I learned about what it takes to make good leaders. Those I served under taught me how to take Americans from all walks of life and develop leaders who are teachers, are coaches, and are mentors who live in a culture that learns every day, whether on the high seas or in the Hindu Kush. I look back now and I see the hallmarks of an admired leader because I saw so many. Someone who thinks like a person of action but acts like a person of thought. One who lives life with intensity but also a passion for excellence and always willing to go out on a limb to lift others up. In my wanderings around the world, I have seen America as 2 fundamental sources of power, inspiration and intimidation. And I want to tell you a short story of it, and that was brought home to me. I was out in a place called Al-Anbar Province in 2004, and around me I had 29 sailors and Marines who were with me day in and day out. I was a 2-star and I commanded the 1st Marine Division. And over the next 4 months, 17 of those 29 would be killed or wounded. And as we were moving once out in the middle of nowhere in the western Euphrates River Valley, we pulled in the middle of the night to a little perimeter out in the middle of nowhere with 1 lieutenant and his sailors and Marines, about 40 of them. And when the sun came up, he said, "Would you like to meet someone who tried to get you last night?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we caught a guy putting an explosive device on the road you were coming in on." Well, that gets a little personal, you know? And he said, he's well educated. He was educated overseas, an engineer. He speaks good English. I said, "Sure, bring him over." So they brought him over. It wasn't his best day. You know, he'd been out there with his wheelbarrow and his artillery rounds, a car battery. He had his detonator. He's got a shovel. He's digging a hole. And he looks up and there's 5 Marines with automatic rifles standing around him. Now, I understand about wealth management, but his 401k was in trouble right then, Daryl, I guarantee you. So they brought him in, and I had him cut his little plastic handcuffs off, and he sat down. I said, "What are you doing this for? You're Sunni, we're the Marines, we're the only friends you got in this doggone country. What are you trying to attack us for?" He said, "Oh, you Jews, you Americans, you're out to steal the oil." I said, "Okay, that's it." I said, "You're obviously an educated man. If you're going to start talking that kind of nonsense, I don't have time for you." And he sat there for a minute, and he said, "Can I have just a minute?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Can I have a cigarette?" And I was going to give him that lecture that we all give the young people. And I said, "Nah, he probably needs one." So I had to light it for him. He's shaking so bad. Got him a cup of coffee. And we were sitting there talking. I said, what are you doing this for? He said, "Well, I don't like foreign soldiers on my soil." I said, "Well, that's fair. I understand now. I wouldn't want that in Richland." You know, I could understand him then. And I asked him about his family, and he had a wife, 2 girls, little girls and stuff. And he said, I guess I'm going to jail." I said, "Oh, yeah, you're going to be going to Abu Ghraib. You're going to be wearing an orange jumpsuit for a couple of years for this little stunt." But now listen to this. A man trying to kill us in Al-Anbar Province in the middle of nowhere. And he says, "General, do you think if I'm a model prisoner that someday I could emigrate to America?" Now think what you're hearing there. That even a man who's so torn up about what's happened to his country and what he's been through, and the inspiration of America can reach all the way over the hatred and the miles and touch him. He said, "God, he'd love to be sitting here with you tonight." It's just something to remember when we remember what was said in that prayer, I think, this evening, because in today's world that's so awash in change of every kind, it's particularly important that we all keep America's power of inspiration in mind and reinforcing it, because each of us has that power to inspire, to live up to what Lincoln called for in us, to follow our better angels. And I think someone, some team, some parish, some classroom, there's always some place that we can touch in our communities and bring them back in and say life is going to be better, that there's people who care about them. We need leaders in all avenues of service who are committed to holding and upholding our fundamental unity on shared values, what's in the coins in our pockets right now, those three words, e pluribus unum, out of many one, whether it be the Lewis and Clark expedition that came down this river in canoes, or it's our troops in the combat zone, but it certainly should be also what we have in our communities. And we should be inspiring those around us to do the same thing and pass it on, because we need people, young and old, willing to stand up and be counted in this beautiful corner of the world, and the country especially needs from you young people in the room. We need your vigor, we need your wisdom, we need you to do your homework, but at the same time, we want your enthusiasm, because if you've been brought up to think America is not the greatest place for all of the faults we know it has or it has had, then you've been given the wrong understanding of the greatest experiment on earth. You know, I was flying in yesterday, and as we dropped down just north of Walla Walla, we're coming in low over Dayton and all those places and over the Snake River, and you come flying, and then you see the Columbia out there again. And it strikes you always with a little bit of nostalgia when you get as old as you got my color of hair. And I still remember playing catch on the riverbanks or jumping off the Blue Bridge. Don't you young people do that? The chiefs of police of several of our communities are here tonight, so don't get any wise ideas. But I would say growing up, all of us kids too, we had another hero, because we all loved playing baseball, of course. We had a hero from the greatest generation. And he was a sparkling ball player and a veteran of World War II, of course. Another of the greatest generation, a guy named Jackie Robinson. We all wanted to be Jackie Robinson, sliding into home plate. And one day I got really curious because I'd heard about his epitaph. He wrote his own epitaph. So I was in New York City, one of those rainy, cold, windy days in New York in January. So I go out, and much to the dismay of then my staff officers who were with me and all, I went off and found in Cypress Hills Cemetery his gravestone, and it's rather large. It's not showy or anything, but he wrote the words himself. He said, "Life is not important except in the impact that it has on other lives." And what a true statement. We are all fortunate to have grown up free. We're living in this great big experiment. We were, most of us, born free by complete accident. All of us here tonight have chosen to live free, but we have a responsibility to turn that same freedom over to the younger generation as good or better than we got it. So no matter what impact you make, thank you. The impacts that you all make, every one of you, on a daily basis, big or small, it makes no difference. Just thank you for inviting me to participate in this evening's reminder of what it is that makes our country so great. And I want to just close with one point. I am not just the Secretary of Defense, Andy. It's very kind of you to say that. I'm the Secretary of your Defense, and as a result, I am answerable to you. I am accountable to you, and I want you to know I take that very seriously. I don't take myself too seriously, but I take the job pretty seriously. And I would just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that I was told to take questions here tonight. So now we're going to see who can put me on the spot and basically fire some questions at me, and I'll be happy to respond. One or two, is that right? Four questions.
Four questions. We had actually quite a few, because Tri-Citians are inquiring minds, and so they asked a whole bunch of things. But this is in your official capacities, I suppose. When, if ever, is Afghanistan likely to become an effective state, or will it remain a collection of competing tribes opposed to each other or any other outside force that seeks to influence?
Well, it's a challenging question, ladies and gentlemen, because you all know what happened on 9/11, and sometimes we get a little distance between what happened to us on a bad day, and we start forgetting what we felt like on the 12th of September 2001, when there was not a single airplane in the sky over the top of our country unless it had U.S. Air Force on the side of it. I would just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that what we have done when we came in is to restructure the strategy. It is a regional strategy now. It didn't start by looking at Afghanistan. It looked at India and Iran. It looked at Russia. It looked at Pakistan. Then what we did was we realigned our troops so that they were advising the Afghan boys. All the Afghan units that were advised by our guys won every battle. The Afghan troops who were not lost every battle. Even a Marine infantryman can figure out what to do about that one, okay? And then what we did was we reinforced them. I sent off 700 young soldiers from Benning. And then we have got a way to go forward where we do not expect to, do the fighting. We are going to advise them. We will give them the air support and the intelligence support they need. But we also have people like Prime Minister Modi, who I went off to meet with in India, and he is now putting in hundreds of millions of dollars of development aid. We have a lot more support from others. We dropped from 50 nations in our coalition, the largest wartime coalition in modern history, to 39 when people thought we were just giving up and pulling out. Already it's grown to 41. Those other two nations are, by the way, both Arab Muslim nations that have joined us. And we believe that we can get them up to a point where they can defend themselves. Now, we're up against an enemy, and I've dealt with this enemy since 1979. Do not patronize them. When they say girls do not go to school, they didn't arrive there through logic. You're probably not going to logically draw them off. When they say girls are property, that's exactly what they mean. When they say you will all pray in a certain way or they'll kill you, and remember, they've killed more Muslims than they've killed Jews, Christians, Hindus, anything else combined. This is an enemy that we're going to have to deal with, and simply by coming home, it's not going to make us safe for the next 9/11. So we're going to do it by, with, and through our allies. We're not going to take it on ourselves, and each year I think you'll see more of the Afghan boys able to hold the line. Notice we have not lost one province capital or one district capital since last August when we announced the new strategy. We hadn't added one troop there. It was not what we have done since then is to strengthen our guys. And our guys, remember, 41 nations all fighting together. I hope that's a sufficient answer.
Thank you. Still in the same neighborhood, do you see the U.S. involved in the future of the Middle East more or less as they are today, opposing radical Islam and using limited forces and influence short of large-scale land forces, except in those instances like 9/11?
Well, our strategy as we rewrote it, and I just signed off on the first national defense strategy in 10 years. We came into office, we had no defense strategy, and there had not been one for 10 years. I'm not taking a partisan position here. That hits, as you know, two different parties' administrations. We turned one out. It is by, with, and through our allies, and you will see more and more where we put, for example, we invest American troops. We invest one American troop to gain 200 troops from other countries. I'll give you the example of down in the Lake Chad, Trans-Sahel area in Africa where Boko Haram, sometimes of you have seen what they've done, kidnapping the hundreds of girls, blowing things up and all. Immediately, the French went in to try and save it. They were successful. We would have lost Mali to the terrorists had the French not moved quickly. Today, you have a little over 1,000 Americans down there. There's over 4,200 French paratroopers, foreign legionnaires, Marines, helping the black troops, the African troops, fight against this enemy. That is our model for taking on the terrorists in the future. We will help them, but we are not going to do the fighting for them. We're going to try and bring their manhood out in their guys, say, you step forward. Number one, they can do it better than us in the areas where their homes are. So that's the approach we're taking throughout the Middle East.
Well, this is probably the loaded question because this is the nuclear question. Why wouldn't the Iranians and the Saudis having the bomb decrease the potential for conflict between them like mutually assured destruction did for the U.S. and the USSR?
Yeah, it's a good question. And if you mirror image and say, well, we and Russia did not go to war because we both had this bomb, then that would work somewhere else. You have to be very careful in this world of mirror imaging and not taking each society, each culture for its own history, for its own background. Let me give you one example of Iran under this regime. Our beef is not with the Iranian people. It is with a regime that it stands over the top of its people, that has oppressed its own people. And several years ago, they attempted to murder less than 2 miles from the White House. The Iranian regime sent a team to try to murder an ambassador from Saudi Arabia less than 2 miles from the White House. Now, why would you think a country that would do that without an atomic bomb would somehow be a mature country? It's not. It is a revolutionary regime sitting atop the hopes of young people, sitting atop the hopes of business people. This is not a place you want to do mirror imaging right now. Now, does that mean we never want to talk with them? Of course not. Of course not. But we cannot accept the idea of a nuclear-armed Iranian regime doing that kind of work around the world. And from right now, Yemen to Bahrain, from Syria, you look at what's going on in Syria, Assad would not be able to continue doing the murder he's doing today. Hundreds of thousands, millions of refugees, lives totally disrupted. Unlike the prayer we heard tonight, nobody knows when they leave in the morning if their house is going to be standing when they come back that night. We do not want to see a regime that will do that sort of thing get its hands on a bomb. Anything else?
One more.
One more? Yeah, tell you, you're hard.
All right. Yeah, he just said that I'm really hard because I'm going to the fourth question. But this is the one that Tri-Citians all really want to know. Mr. Secretary, what is your favorite spud nut?
I just take the standard. A good glazed one. Thanks very much, everybody.
We have a gift. Secretary Mattis.
It's good to see you. And now we would like to have our 2017 Tri-Citians of the Year, Steve and Shirley Simmons. Please join us on stage. And Rob DiPiazza from Artistic Portraits will present Steve and Shirley with their own personal portrait, recognizing them as our 2017 Tri-Citians of the Year.
Congratulations. Thank you, Rob.
You're welcome.
Oh, got my good side, thanks.
I got your good side too, also.
The role of the 2017 Tri-Citian of the Year isn't complete until you two help us celebrate the individual or individuals, you guys have been waiting for a couple of hours for this one, who will be named the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year. It's our tradition that the previous year's Tri-Citian of the Year, or in this case, the two previous winners, get to introduce you to the new one that we're about to recognize this evening. So ladies and gentlemen, here to announce and welcome our 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year, Steve and Shirley Simmons.
Wow, there's 900 people here and we get to follow General Mattis. Good evening. It's been an honor for Shirley and me to be the 2017 Tri-Citians of the Year, and we're humbled to be in the company of others that we respect and admire so much. This event, besides announcing the next Tri-Citian of the Year, celebrates the idea of service above self, and is an opportunity to honor all of you that give your money, your time, your expertise, and your leadership to make our community a better place. So thank you all. And what a better example of service above self than Secretary Mattis, who after 4 decades of service to his country, enters retirement and then answers the call once again to serve and defend our nation. Please thank the Secretary one more time. Tonight, our job is to introduce the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year. Should we get started?
Yes, we should. This person, we're just going to give you little bits here and there. This person in their life had a passion for Lincoln Logs.
This person has been known to give $100 bills to kids.
This person is not from Moscow or Pullman.
This person is not from Walla Walla or Dayton.
This person likes to pretend that they're a bus driver.
This person knows that the capital of Illinois is Springfield.
This person has taught math.
This person has been a Tri-Citian for more than 50 years.
This person evidently loves long-distance dating.
This person has been married for more than 40 years.
That's nice right there. This person graduated from Kennewick High. Go Lions.
Here's what others say about this person.
Oh, sorry. Blank is a true servant.
Blank is a humanitarian, teacher, philanthropist, and role model.
Blank is reserved and humble while quietly and patiently doing much for our community.
Blank is just a person that gets things done.
Blank is the person you can always count on, no matter what. We need more people like Blank.
Blank doesn't do these things for praise. Blank does them because he wants to. When other people say no, Blank says, let's see how we can make that work.
Blank is very generous and a positive person, and we are fortunate to have Blank in our community.
While this person may try to blend in with the crowd and go unnoticed, their actions in service to the community certainly cause him to stand out. Here is just a small sample.
Blank is a person of faith and leads their church and community service projects.
An Eagle Scout himself and a recipient of the Order of the Arrow, the Silver Beaver Reward, and a Blue Mountain Council member, he has been an invaluable leader in local scouting program.
Now that you know it's a man, he enthusiastically delivers care packages to seniors.
He helped build a wheelchair-accessible drinking fountain in Mercer Park in Pasco.
He spearheaded the assembly and installation of playground equipment in Richland.
He takes charge of setting up and taking down the viewing area for individuals with disabilities at the boat races, where he is often found volunteering to help make sure everyone can enjoy our community's largest event.
He led a group of volunteers to fix up and install a new HVAC system in the senior center in Burbank.
He joined fellow Rotarians on a medical mission to Ethiopia, where he was not permitted to operate on people. But he was a valuable part of the team.
With the help of the Tri-City Sunrise Rotarians, he has joined in building or remodeling structures for our locals Boys and Girls Club, donating both labor and material to ensure that children in our community can have a chance at a better life.
One day a week, it is well known not to schedule anything for this person because he is delivering meals to seniors for Meals on Wheels. But that is only the beginning of his care for seniors. As time went by, the Meals on Wheels organization was wearing out their building. And as they told us, as repairs were needed, he would just show up and do them himself. In time, it became evident by the growing demand that there was a need for a new kitchen. However, due to financial restraints, the project was shelved twice. But he couldn't stand it, and he became involved in the project, creating a value-engineered design and bringing the cost down from $4+ million to $2 million. During construction, he donated many upgrades and, in fact, financially carried the construction costs himself. As the Meals on Wheels folks would tell us, without him, it never would have happened. The kitchen was completed in 2016, along with new administrative offices and the cafe.
And if you have not figured out who this wonderful person is, please join us in congratulating the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year, Don Pratt.
Oh,
What an honor.
and by the way, Don is a fellow Sunrise Rotarian.
Congratulations, Don.
Thanks, Shirley.
Say a few words.
Well, yeah, I can probably say very few words. I guess you got me. And I'll probably get fined because I don't have a rotary pin on. This is my wife, Lois. I'll just turn it over to her, right? I didn't expect that at all. I think there's a lot of people here in this community that do a whole lot more than I do, and I look up to a lot of them. And I don't know how you did it, but you got me. I didn't expect that at all, but I do appreciate everybody in our community. It seems like everywhere I turn, there's lots and lots of people that just really give, and that's what makes it great. And so appreciate all of you coming, and I was just looking forward to sitting back here and find out who it was. I had no idea.
I knew.
As you noticed, we had a few of his family members hidden in the back.
How did they pull that off?
Don, we have another presentation for you. The Tri-Citian of the Year Steering Committee is proud to present you with what we call the George F. Hickson Fellowship, which is the highest honor that Kiwanis International presents. This is not the correct one because it doesn't have your name on it, but you get to keep it until we get the one with your name on it. George Hickson was the first international president of Kiwanis, and this fellowship represents the high standard that he presented to all of us, and it represents a donation from the Tri-Citian of the Year Steering Committee to the Kiwanis International Children's Fund in your name.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Well, I don't have a lot of words to say. I'm probably one of those guys that doesn't like to be in front of crowds, and really not interested in giving any big speech. But it would be kind of fun to go pound some nails somewhere. So, thank you.
Thank you for joining us in this grand celebratory evening. On behalf of the Tri-Citian of the Year Steering Committee and the 5 Kiwanis clubs, 6 Rotary clubs, okay, and their 650 plus members, we thank you for this great community that we can serve in. Again, congratulations to Don Pratt, the 2018 Tri-Citian of the Year, and a special thanks for Secretary Mattis for helping make this a most memorable event. Thank you. Good evening.